Welcome to Wellspring on the Air. I'm Nicole Alfonso, a therapist at Wellspring and the host of today's show about what is DER. With me today to discuss this important topic is Allegra Saunders. Together, we want to tell you about what DER is and when it is necessary. So stay with us. We've got some good information just for you. Welcome, Allegra. Thank you for being on and just sharing with us a little bit about what DER is and the importance of it for our listeners. So before we dive in, would you please just introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So my name is Allegra. I am one of the clinicians at Wellspring. I've been working with Wellspring for almost 2 years now, and my work is predominantly with individuals. I work with a lot of youth, kiddos, young adults, and yeah, I'm excited and happy to be here.
We love Allegra, and we're grateful for you being part of our team. So Allegra, let's get these DER letters out there and talk about what is the DER program and what does it do?
Right. So DER stands for Disaster Emotional Relief. And so think of it as a hybrid of clinical intervention as well as psychoeducational services that come in as these sort of second responders to communities, to families, to individuals following traumatic events once stability has been established. And because we are, as Wellspring, a faith-based, a Christ-centered agency, we believe that we're the hands and the feet of Jesus. And so our DER program operates as an outreach ministry, and it gives us an opportunity to service and to support folks who have been impacted by a shared tragedy, whether that's something within the family, something that happened in the community. And often these services are done in a group setting. And so, the heart really behind DER is to serve others through bearing their burdens. And you can find that in Galatians 2. It says to carry each other's burdens. And in this way, you will fulfill the law of Christ. And so this desire that we have, to serve others is fueled by the love that we've received. In John 5:19, it says, "The Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love." And so we believe that this program gives us an ability just to continue this missional work of loving others the same way that Jesus instructed us to.
I love that because it's really important to acknowledge that we are physical beings, but we also have our soul, right, to take care of. And so obviously when there's disasters and really hard things happening, the first responders are the ones that are taking care of that physical piece, right? Do they need food? Do they need to be taking care of like wounds, right? So that's immediate, right? That's the first response. But then we tend to forget, right? Or at least not give that much importance to that soul piece, right? That piece of taking care of their heart and their minds, right? And what has happened and how it has impacted that area of them. So this is where this awesome DER program comes in, is that second phase, right? Which I love and I'm a part of, which I just think it's amazing and it's great. And we'll talk further about what I've seen when I've done some DER work. But Allegra, let's keep going here. What are some of the current services that DER program does provide?
So right now we are providing trauma education. Wellspring is a trauma specialty practice. So we provide the education, we provide also the therapeutic intervention for adults and children who have experienced, again, that shared trauma through either like a group processing, debriefing sessions, intentional listening, and then also just other forms of group expressive or clinical intervention. So we have, an EMDR focus here. So we might go and provide an EMDR debriefing session. We might provide intentional listening sessions to folks that have experienced something, difficult where they need to share their story. I know Nicole, being a part of equine, I know we've also worked in some equine sessions for folks that have experienced a group trauma or a group tragedy. And so some of just the examples of what we've done in the past are, support and services to folks that were affected down in the Keys following Hurricane Irma back in 2017. We've also provided support to a corporation following a coworker who experienced a heart attack during a staff meeting, a really sudden and scary event that was witnessed by multiple people that had a relationship to this person. And then most recently, we provided really that second responder service to folks who had been impacted and affected within the Surfside community following the collapse at the Chapman Towers. And, there not only did we offer individual services, we offered intentional listening services to folks who were impacted, but we also came out and we did a full trauma educational, both in person and also online, so that folks weren't just getting the mental health therapeutic piece, but they were also getting this informational piece. And that was actually really for folks who were caregivers. So how do caregivers even address their experiences of caring for folks who've been impacted by trauma while also maintaining their health and their well-being?
Yeah, and even the normalizing of these are normal symptoms for you to be having after such a difficult event, because a lot of people think, well, whoa, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I, responding this way? And it's actually very normal, the body responding in those ways. And so normalizing helps that person feel normal, within what they're going through. But I do want to add that I was able to do some of this DER work in two different schools that I went to, because they had experienced sudden losses of people in the school, or a parent had passed, somebody that was very involved, or a teacher. And so one of the things that I did was I was there present for anybody individually that wanted to come and just talk about it. But I was also leading a group debriefing session where I had about 30 kids and teachers and parents and stuff come and be able to process together their feelings about what happened. And I think it's really important to mention that when trauma is experienced in community, that same community can be the healing agent, right? And so the DER program invites the community to process together, providing support to each other during and after, right? So you're there for a few hours processing together, but after, these same people will be of support to each other as they continue to move in their healing journey. So a lot of benefits from this DER program. I know that when I did that at a school where there was about 30 to 35 people, the way they came in was very different than the way they came out, right? There was a lift, right? When you were able to express the feelings, no matter, they're not right or wrong, right? You just share them and people acknowledge and are witness to it. It's so powerful, and it feels lighter now. I can move forward, right? I can go to my next thing in life. Because now I've been able to kind of get all this off my chest. So it's very, very powerful to have this program just in people's lives to benefit and be able to move forward, right? Like let's move forward. Like we can all talk about this. We can be there for each other and keep going, right?
Yeah. And Nicole, something that you mentioned, just as you were saying that now, there's a study that was published in the Journal of Psychiatry, and they came out with these 5 essential elements of immediate and midterm mass trauma intervention, right? And they are to promote psychological safety, which is part of what we do here, to promote calming. So as you talked about, you just saw this disease.
Yes.
So I'm assuming you were able to kind of promote that calming. And then promoting a sense of self and community efficacy. So you're right when you say that, yes, it is, as we go through this shared event together, the healing also happens within that community. And then promoting a sense of connectedness. And so that bonding and that connected feeling, that shared experience that you were able to kind of help them manage and move through. At the last point, which again is what you said here, instilling hope, right? They left with this hope that they had gotten through this and that they were able to sort of write and move forward in that story together as a community through this shared event. So it's really neat that I'm sure without even having read this article, you walked in and did those 5 things just in that event. And so it's really cool. I think DER definitely follows these 5, really like heart-touching principles.
Yeah. And I think for when we talk about it impacts people differently, right? Like if you're not the person that lost that particular person, you're still vicariously living through trauma. It's a little different, right? But if you work through that yourself, then you can be even more present for the person that has this maybe stronger response or difficulty through it. So it really is about being able to help each other through it. Yeah. Totally. Awesome. Thank you, Allegra. This is really good because I think we don't talk about this that much. We don't talk about, let's say we go to funerals, right? That's closure, but that's really when the work begins for people, right? They've been surviving this until the moment of some sort of closure, whatever it looks like. But then after that is when really all the feelings start coming up, everything starts coming up, and they really do need help to work through that as well. So, all right. So we're going to take a short break to thank one of our sponsors who makes the production of our podcast possible. When we come back, we'll hear more from Allegra about our DER program. Welcome back to Wellspring on the Air. This is Nicole Alfonso. If you're just joining our show, our topic today is what is DER? And I will tell you what it is because I need to catch you up. It is disaster emotional relief. So far today, we've talked about what it means to have this program and how it's benefiting the people that we serve. If you joined us late, you can find us on our favorite podcast channel on Wellspring on the Air, or on our website blog page at wellspringmiami.org. Just search for this topic, which is what is DER? So moving forward, Allegra, tell us about the future of this program. Like, what are the goals we have to develop this program further?
Right. So we have some big goals moving forward. So we would love to really expand this program and its reach, significantly. And some of the ways that we're trying or that we're planning to do this is to develop these trauma informational booklets and then really come in with these specific protocols for youth, for children, for adolescents, and then for adults, right? Because we know children, adolescents, and adults all developmentally different, all respond to tragedy differently. And so we would like to develop these specific protocols to tackle 6 key areas that we've kind of noticed have an impact on families, on individuals, on organizations in a particularly shared way. And so one of the first areas is we would like to develop protocols around individuals or families affected by death by suicide or a suicide attempt. As of 2022, suicide is still the 12th leading cause of death in the United States. And so it still remains in that top 15 as reported by the CDC. And even so, there were more than 300,000 ER visits for self-harm or injury, which includes those suicide attempts in 2022 alone. And so we recognize that this is definitely an area that, Wellspring as an agency, particularly with, our trauma lens, we can come in and provide support again to the kiddos, to the adolescents, as well as to the adults. We all know adolescent suicide has been up there with drug use, car accidents, homicide. Suicide is in that top 10 as well. And so
actually, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to tell you that it is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 24. And that just is just devastating to me. But it also tells us we need to be addressing our kids and children early, right? We need to be helping them, and because they're feeling hopeless. And so we need programs that will educate, that will help them, manage these strong feelings and get them the help they need.
Yes, I hear the bounce there.
Yeah, sorry. I know we have a bounce program. Go to our website for teens, for kids ages 11 to 19.
We'll both be there. So one of the other areas are just families that have been impacted by any major traumatic event. And again, that could be things like a car accident, like a serious car accident, home invasion, domestic violence, an accident, a sudden death of a family member.
Mm-hmm.
The list is sort of ending in terms of what qualifies as a major traumatic event, but we're going to be working to develop a protocol specifically for families. Next is organizations or schools after a shooting. And so, from the FBI, they're the ones who kind of track these active shooter responses. And so from 2000 to 2021, 21 years, there have been 434 active shooter incidents, resulting in more than 32,000 either deaths and or injuries. And so we have seen a significant increase in the past decade, in the past 2 decades, in these types of events. And even just from 2020 to 2021, there was a 52.5% increase in active shooting events. And so this is one that we know, and even before, the data is not quite out for 2022 yet, but a lot of these events happen in schools and in commerce areas. Close to 65% of them occur in these public spaces. And so it's so important for us to be able to have a protocol that we can utilize, we can step in and provide that support to schools, to organizations, even to corporations in the midst of an event like that.
Definitely. I think it's definitely a great program to have available for anything that happens, and that we hope, of course, doesn't happen. But if it does, that we are ready, to help. Yeah.
And then some of the other places are developing protocols for, any traumatic event within an organization or a school, and then providing support again to communities after natural disasters. Here in South Florida, we're entering into hurricane season, and we had our first tropical storm, which left the area that I'm in super duper flooded. Brickell was water up to, our waist. And so understanding that we're even here, we're moving into that time where folks, their businesses, their homes, their cars, their livelihood can be affected, as it was back in 2017 during Irma. And then lastly, communities after any traumatic event. So that things like Surfside, the building collapse, coming in and providing like a full-scale community response. These are the 6 areas where we're hoping to develop protocols, because we recognize that early intervention is helpful in mitigating the potential for these long-term mental health risks. We know that, acute stress disorder, to be clinical here, right? If it is met with an early intervention, such as EMDR or even CBT, trauma-focused interventions, that there is a decrease in the potential for someone to go on to develop the full expression of post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as other just mental health and mood regulating disorders. And so we know how important it is to be able to get in there within that first month or so and be able to provide adequate and proper support.
I love that you say that, because a lot of us say, well, let's just give it time, right? Or, time will heal and things like that. And so I think we're in a moment where, it's better to process, to work through it, to talk about it, instead of just kind of letting it play out, because we don't know what it's going to play out into or how it'll play out, right? And so I appreciate you saying that, because I think we do need to be like, it's better safe than sorry to get you to someone to talk about it. And then if if everything looks good, your symptoms are decreasing, then we're good, right? But if not, then it's really important that we take whatever next step is necessary. So thank you for mentioning that, because I think, we kind of have a tendency of just letting, let's let time tell. And that's not always the right thing, Yeah. Okay, so did you want to talk a little bit about some research?
Yeah, no, of course. So, one of the other things that I thought was really interesting is, and this supports again that idea of early intervention. In 2019, the NIH, they essentially sponsored a meta-analysis, which means looking at a whole bunch of different studies. And this was published in the Journal of Psychotraumatology, right? One of very cool area of specific clinical research. And they also found that, yeah, early psychological intervention was effective in mitigating these symptoms of acute stress disorder, PTSD, following recent events. And, that article connected to some information that I found from the VA really go hand in hand around the idea of offering practical resources, providing safety, comfort, facilitating social connection, and then stabilizing intense emotions. Those are the most important actions that we need to help foster this natural resiliency towards being able to recover. So the sooner that we can get these different pieces in, the better health outcomes we see, not only for youth, for kiddos, for adults, but for adults as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is good. Awesome. So now who may be able to benefit from the access of our services through the DER program, and how would they request these services?
So that's like a catch-all question. So of course, families, that could be parents, loved ones, caregivers, guardians, right? If you recognize that there has been a shared event or even just a traumatic event with experience within your family unit, anyone can reach out. For schools, particularly counselors, right? Folks that are also trained in mental health services to be able to recognize what is within their capacity, or when would it be helpful to involve another agency that has this specialization to come on in and be supportive entities to the counselors and therapists that are working within the school system. But administrators can also do that, teachers, after school personnel, anyone that's really within the school system that has that's listening in here and that has the capacity to reach out on behalf of the school that's affected. Businesses, specifically, HR representatives, folks that are working to benefit the well-being of employees. So possibly EAP counselors, supervisors, managers, anyone that has a thumb on the pulse of the agency and the well-being of the folks that are within it. And then, of course, within the community, right? We just get bigger and bigger, leaders, community members, folks that lead homeowners associations, even like elected officials.
Yeah.
You all have the capacity to reach out to us and let us know, hey, this event or this thing happened within our space, within our community. And we feel like it would be helpful, maybe just to even talk about or talk through what this process, what this programming could look like. And then lastly, I also even added churches, pastors, elders, leaders, even individual members. I encourage you all really to be able to, reach out to Wellspring or reach out to the folks that have the capacity to make these types of programmatic decisions. We would be more than happy to be able to come out and provide information, as well as, a picture of what services could look like. And the easiest way to do that is actually to email our programs director. Our programs director.
You combined director with Rebecca.
I did. Our programs director, Rebecca. There you go. And her email is programs@wellspringmiami.org. And she can provide awesome information, follow-up, coordination, and also just touch base with you around next steps if you were interested in soliciting the service from us.
Awesome. Yes. So remember, programs@wellspringmiami.org if you're interested in additional information about the services we provide through the DER program. Allegra, you're awesome. Thank you for being on the show. It's time to close out the show. Thank you, Allegra, for joining us today and sharing important information about this DER program. We hope you learned some valuable information. And thank you for joining our show today. Again, if you joined this program midstream, you can find this show and others on podcast at Wellspring on the Air or on our blog on wellspringmiami.org. The title of today's show again was What is DER? Encourage us and let us know you're listening by sending comments or questions to onair@wellspringmiami.org. It's time to wrap up. This is Nicole Alfonso with Wellspring on the Air, because hearts and minds matter.